Hello, I'm Robert, and you're welcome here in my biz little shop. On today's episode of What's on the Workbench, I've got a pair of dog collars I need to work on. I thought I would share it because that's a fun project. Lots of people have pets, so if you're looking for something to do for somebody that's a fairly inexpensive gift to build for somebody, this could be it. And it's also good for using up some of the short cutoffs on belts as well, obviously depending on the size of the collar. I'm glad you're here today in the shop with me. I've got some leather that I cut off the ends of some sides. Sometimes I do that, and I'm just going to check here and see if there's anything usable in this size. May not be. That's some lining. Oh, this will work. I see one little flaw up here, but I can cut one strip off of it and then I'll be down into good material. And this is about some 3-ounce lining material. If not, I've got straps cut already of lining material. So to get started on these dog collars, I've got some vegetable tan leather here. I've got 1 inch and 1 1/4. The longer belt is 1 1/4 inch. It's for a 100-pound dog. And then the other one's 1 inch. So I make my collars just like I make my belts. I make them as a 2-layer belt and or strap. And I'm going to, if I haven't already said, this is an oil tan finish on this, so I don't have to dye this before I get it layered up. The leather I've got here is a 9-ounce leather, and then I've got some liner to go with that. And I'm going to end up with about an 11-ounce strap when I'm finished. The dog collars, one is 22 inches total length and one is 26 inches total length. Not my favorite way to measure a belt, but that's the instructions I've got. So that is from the bend to the tip. So I need to add about 3 inches to the overall length of that for the bend over at the buckle end. So I'm going to start with 25 inches and with 29 inches on those. So to do that, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these roughly to length. Once I get the layers laminated together, I will cut them to their finished length with a round end and an English point. So I'm going to look here for the best part of this strap here. And since I'm going to give myself a little extra room, I'm going to go with 30 inches on the 1 1/4 or thereabouts. So that's the strap for the longer one. And this is the strap for the shorter one. I got a little wiggle here at the end, get rid of that. And I need 25 inches here. So I'm going to cut my a little longer and we can trim that down. And then I'm going to do the same for the liners here. I'm not going to have you sit through the whole process on this. It'll be much abbreviated, but I use the Weldwood contact adhesive. I put 2 coats on each strap, letting them dry in between. And then I will laminate those together and I'll trim the liner to fit the back. This liner is light enough weight. It's hard to pull through a strap cutter and get the exact size, so it's easier to go ahead and trim that to size afterwards. Contact adhesive is applied and is tacked up, so I'll do the lining now. And I'll bend up the part here where the bend is for the buckle so that I don't have as many wrinkles there as a result of forming that around the buckle. Make sure I have good contact here. Keep it from coming apart. And I'll do that the length of the dog collar as well. Okay, so we've got both of our blanks prepared. We're at 10 ounces. Plenty strong for a dog collar. And the leather I use is a little bit of a softer temper. I think that's a little more comfortable for a dog collar as well. Let's get these cut to length. We'll start with our buckle end, get the round end on it here. And you don't have to use a round end, you could use a different shape. Just kind of out of habit, that's what I've always done. I'm gonna go 3 inches. Three inches will be the center of the bend. And I use my wing dividers to find the center, and I like to actually be off center just a little bit. What I mean by that is I like 2 parallel lines to help line up the bag punch. I think that makes that work a lot better. And then I'll just go ahead, instead of doing math, figuring out how much I lose at the bend, I'll just put my bend in it here. And then I'll measure my length. And this one needs to be 26. I don't know what made me think of it right now, but when you're buying used tools, be sure you know who you're buying them from and that you know what you're getting. I purchased a couple years ago a English point. I needed a wider one, so I bought an 1 3/4 inch English point. And I picked it up, didn't look at it too hard, got it home, and I used it, and it seemed like I never could get it aligned properly. What I figured out was someone probably had dropped it at one point, and this side is pushed in some, so it doesn't create a proper English point. All right, so both of my straps, my collars are cut ready here. So we have the dog collar layered up and cut to length. And I use this stitch groover here to put in the line to follow with my stitching chisel. And I'll make this brief because you've seen me do this part before. I always start at the tip and work my way to the fold. Once I establish the point, then I'll go through here with the 2-tine till I get to the edge. Once I've got these here, then I'll use my 6-tine and march my way down the side of the dog collar. And I'll just follow this groove. I'm tipped out a little bit at the top here so that there's no chance of the threads coming out the side. And it's important to try to maintain the same angle so that the line on the back of the belt is straight. If you tip back and forth, it'll wiggle on the back side, obviously. Okay. Next, we're going to stitch this. I think I said earlier, these are going to have an oil finish. And I find that with an oil finish, I tend to get more of a pucker along here. And so I'll do the round over after the stitching on this type of a dog collar. I find that dog collars can be really handy using up some shorter lengths of strap that are left over from belts, or occasionally when I'm cutting the strips, there'll be a hole or a scar that's partially down the side, and I'll go ahead and cut the strap and have that hole or scar in the middle of the strap, but then I will shorten it up and set this in my box that I label for projects like this. Handles on luggage, dog collars, places where I need a shorter length than say a 50 or 60 inch strap for a belt. I've finished the stitching. The next thing I need to do is the edges here, and I'm going to use my Ron's tool number 3 here, and we're going to round these edges over. Afterwards, I will burnish. I went ahead, this is a 2-day project, started it yesterday. So I went ahead and put a coat of oil on it, let it soak last night. And I'll put oil on it one more time here before I ship it. And tan coat, helps keep it from staining. Typically on my edges, I just use a little bit of water and denim. A lot of that darkness you see there is because of the water on there, but it does darken up the edge when you burnish it. I guess you could choose not to burnish the edge. It doesn't make for a nicely finished project if you skip the burnishing. I'll be applying one more coat of oil to the belt, and then once that has had a chance to soak in, then I'll put tan coat on it, and it'll be ready to do the final assembly and ready to go at that point. So I'll come back here in a few minutes once this water has dried out of the edge here, and we'll get it oiled and go from there. With the edge burnishing done, I'm going to go ahead and lay out the holes and get those put in place. That will be where I mount the buckle, and also for the adjustment of it. And I use my rotary punch here. I use Chicago screws. You could use a double cap rivet or a post rivet to do your buckles as well. I like the strength of a Chicago screw. I've never had a double cap rivet come apart. I've heard stories of them coming apart. And it's a pretty good sized dog, so I'm going to go ahead and lay out my holes an inch apart. On smaller collars, I'll go closer together. I'll probably go 3/4 of an inch apart on this other one over here. The other thing that I do on a dog collar, I don't know that it's necessary, but on the holes here, the adjustment holes, I go a little bit tighter. I feel like once the collar's on, it probably stays on for a longer period of time. and on a belt, you're taking it on and off. So I just feel like I go one hole smaller so that the tongue stays in a little bit tighter on that collar. Almost set up. We'll put oil on this. After that's dried, we'll put tan coat on it. If you have any questions, please go ahead and throw them in the comment section. I try to honestly answer every question that comes up. I'm not sensitive to quote unquote trade secrets. And if I can help you in your hobby, then that'll make me happy as well. I don't worry too much about unevenness in the oil. I do put it on as even as possible, but my experience is that when this soaks in, it pretty much evens out on its own anyway. I'll set this over here and we'll let this go until it pretty much returns to its original color. It'll be slightly darker, and it'll take a couple hours, and then I can put tan coat on this. On dog collars with no stain, no dye, I use tan coat so it can be oiled afterwards. And the natural oils from the animal's coat, I think, also helps to nourish the leather as well. If it's a black collar on a white dog, I am going to use Resin so that I don't get calls about the dye affecting the color of the animal's coat. So the tan coat is dry and we're ready for our final assembly. Start here on the 1.25 inch. I use a dot of, actually more than a dot. I put a pretty good coating of the fingernail polish in these threads. I don't want this collar to come undone. And this works pretty good because I've tried to undo them before and it was quite a challenge. A couple of them I couldn't even get undone. So put this first one in here. These dog collars are headed to Texas. Run to the post office this afternoon and get them in the mail. All right, so that one there is ready. Let's give it a fitting here and make sure it works okay, and it does. Pretty good sized dog collar. It's got plenty of room for adjustment there. And then we'll go through the same steps here on the 1 inch. So there you go. Here's another project in my series of easy projects. Still time for a great Christmas gift for the pet owner around you. And I think it comes out really nice. Obviously, you could embellish this with tooling and carving if you wanted to get extravagant with it. If you wanted to show off your leatherworking skills, you could use spots or conchos as well. So just another great option. I hope you're having a great day. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks a lot.